Hello and welcome to Business Daily on Trust Television. On this program, we don't just mean business, but we bring you unrivaled analysis and facts on key issues in the world of business, finance, the economy, investment, and the stock market is not left out. I am your host, Christiana Amodu Otinya. Thank you for joining in on the program today. First, we kickstart with the headlines for today. Visa ban, fresh crisis looms as UAE imposes restrictions on Nigerians. Flooding, Tinubu donates 100 million naira to flood victims in Kano. We'll give you more updates in the Business Roundup segment of the program. We'll take a short break. When we come back, it'll be time to tell you what's happening in the stock market, not just in Nigeria, but other bourses across the world. Please stay. Welcome back. Now let's get straight into it. And we'll begin from Customs Street in Nigeria, talking about the Nigeria Exchange, what sentiments look like for the Nigerian Exchange to close the week Friday. Now we saw the Nigeria Exchange inch up by 0.15% to end at 44,396.73. Investors take a total volume of 95.18 million shares valued at 1.88 billion naira in 2,888 deals on the floor of the local bourse. The equity capitalization ended at 24.18 trillion naira. Trading is ongoing on the Nigerian Exchange as we speak, and analysts have forecasted that we're going to still see bargain hunting activities still push the Nigerian Exchange, still remaining in positive territory. Let's go over to other parts of Africa now. We go over to the Johannesburg Securities Exchange, and we are seeing other markets in Africa staying largely bearish. The arrows there, red arrows pointing lower. For Johannesburg, we're seeing down 0.71%. And for Ghana, we are seeing Ghana staying largely flat, unchanged. These economies are also battling issues around coming out of murky waters. For South Africa, there are issues around the state-owned utility, talking about the Eskom, what the President Cyril Ramaphosa is also doing to ensure that the South African economy maintain its stability. For Ghana, we've seen issues come up, especially with the Ghanaian economy. Just recently, we saw what happened with the Ghanaian cedi, and Ghana's economic managers are also working assiduously to be able to obtain the IMF facility of $3 billion from the International Monetary Fund. And all of that, investors and traders are pricing into all of that in this front. Load shedding is continuing. Their announcement came in from Eskom talking about load shedding in South Africa. Let's go over to Wall Street and see what's happening there. Now, it's a sea of green for U.S. markets. Now, U.S. markets are supposed to open, I think, at about 2:32 p.m. Nigerian time. However, the market closed largely higher. The Dow Jones Industrial Average up 2.47% there. So we're seeing quite a very good close for these indexes. The S&P 500 climbed 2.37%, and the tech-heavy Nasdaq Composite there also 2.31%. The focus for markets on Wall Street largely on the earnings report. Now we expect in the coming week, it is expected that the big tech names will also declare earnings, talking about the likes of Apple, Alphabet, Amazon, and Microsoft. Wall Street will also be watching for more inflation data from countries around the world. So the sentiment of Wall Street is largely remaining in positive. Going over to Europe now, European markets opened higher, with UK politics expected to settle as the ruling Conservative Party kicks a new prime minister following the resignation of the former prime minister. Now the FTSE 100 in the UK there, down 0.48%. The CAC run in France is up 0.38%, and the DAX in Germany is up 0.37%. Now, there has been a whole lot of news coming out from the Eurozone, especially as it relates to politics coming out from that zone. As it is normally said, good economics translates into good politics and vice versa. So the resignation of the British Prime Minister, now we are seeing that Boris Johnson is saying he's out of running, and all angles are pointing to Rishi Sunak to ascend the position of Prime Minister. But we expect more news and more development coming in from Britain. In France, in Europe, a lot around energy talks going on, the energy crisis going on. And that's really what a lot of investors are looking at and looking forward for cues, policy cues to address this. Going over to Asia now, Hong Kong stocks and mainland China markets fell sharply, while other major Asia Pacific markets rose. Now, the Shanghai Composite in mainland China, they're down 2 2%. The Kospi in South Korea 1.04% up, and the Nikkei in Japan up 0.31%. Let's go over to what's happening with commodity prices. What's the price of Brent crude like today? The price of silver, the price of agri-commodities. Now for oil, markets rose as expectations on tighter supplies globally ahead of an European Union sanctions on Russian oil underpin prices. Now the price of Brent crude $92.42 per barrel, down 1.15%. For gold, the bullion is down 0.37%. As you can see, is trading for $1,650 per ounce. Now the red continues. Silver is also down 1.13% at $19.17. Now for palm oil is down 0.66%, also $845. For cocoa is still within a very good threshold, $4,101, up 0.12%. So the only grains we have here are for palm oil and cocoa there. Now it's the reds are dominating for this chart that you have seen here. A lot is happening around the supply chain globally as a result of the Russian-Ukraine war. That's affecting supply chain and also having impact on some of these commodities that you're seeing on this chart. Over to the crypto watch now. What's happening in the crypto segment? Bitcoin down 0.91% at $19,323. Ethereum up 0.70%, climbing there at $1,337.71. For Binance Coin is up 1.26% at $273. As you can see there, that's what we have for you for the crypto watch. Now Bitcoin is liking the air above $19,000, as we can see what we are seeing there. But we have seen a lot of things plaguing the cryptocurrency market, and that is what is largely determining the movement of price in this market. Might I mention also that there's been a lot of whale movements affecting this market, and that's why we are seeing some of these prices. We'll continue to bring you updates from the stock market as it is our tradition on Business Daily. However, before I take the business roundup, I want to bring in my guest for the program today. That's talking about Agaba Wilson Agaba. You've seen some of the things we have displayed here, and our focal point for the program today is really what's happening with ways and means financing. That we saw the finance minister did give an update from the budget presentation that we saw for coming some days ago. Now we are seeing the stock market still staying largely bearish. There's going to be some kind of securitization of the ways and means to bonds and treasury bills. Now that's talking about the update we saw. Now I want to get your thoughts briefly before we take the business roundup.
Basically, Nigeria is in a very, I don't want to use the word precarious position when it comes to our economic issues. You can see that our budget has a serious deficit and our borrowings are already high. So we need to make up for that, and in order to do all of this, we need to get as creative as we can. I think that route, changing some of this stuff to securities, will not be too a bad idea, but we touchlight it and see what will come out of it.
Okay, thank you for that. You'll get to hear more from Agaba Wilson during the interview segment of the program today. However, let's take the business roundup for today. Okay, we'll bring you more business stories in the course of the program. I'll take a short breather now, and when we return, the program will continue. Please stay.
TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Welcome back, and thank you for still staying there with us on the program. If you're just joining in, this is Business Daily coming to you from Trust Television. And like I mentioned earlier, this is where we look at critical issues in the Nigerian economy and the economic straight holistically. Now, a lot of issues have come up, especially as it relates Nigeria's debt stock and the debt burden currently for the nation. And we saw the Minister of Finance, Zainab Ahmed, speaking during the budget presentation on issues around the debt stock and her issues around the ways and means financing, the ways and means facility, I beg your pardon there. Now let's listen to what the minister had to say during that budget presentation. Please take a listen.
Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Mrs. Zainab Shamsina Ahmed. Please, shall we all rise and give her a round of applause as she walks in? If you know how she's been working...
approval by His Excellency the President to include the borrowing from the central bank ways and means. Even when we add that, the debt stock will be at 35%. We have set for ourselves a maximum debt limit of 40% of GDP. What the Brentwood institutions, as the World Bank and the IMF, projects for countries like Nigeria as healthy is borrowing levels of 55% of GDP. And I must say that most of our comparators are way above this. Some are at 70%, some are close to 100%. So we have been very prudent in terms of the borrowing, trying to stay within the limits set by the debt management strategy. Today, the total public debt as a percentage of GDP stands at 23.06% as of June 2022. And this again is within the threshold of 55% set by the World Bank and the IMF, but it's also within the limits that we have set ourselves, which is 40% in our debt management strategy. And even when we include the ways and means, it will also not be more than 35%. The exposure of the total debt portfolio to manage our exchange rate remains moderate, as the share of domestic debt in the public and to the total public debt comprises 60%. And we have got approval.
The finance minister there speaking, Zainab Ahmed, on Nigeria's debt stock situation. Now, I want to bring my guest into the discussion. My guest, like I mentioned earlier, he is Agaba Wilson Agaba. He is a business analyst and, of course, a public affairs analyst. Now, we have both listened to what the finance minister said. She's saying that we're still within threshold of the Bretton Woods institution, talking about the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. The threshold is 55%, so Nigeria is still within threshold. However, I just want to ask you, what worries you the most about the debt burden of the country?
My major worry about our debt burden is what we have used the debt for. Because like I always maintain in all of my public discussion, debt in itself is not a bad thing. And if you have taken debt and applied it to a productive economic means or activities, it is going to generate more revenue, thereby growing your economy in terms of real GDP and all of that. So at the end of the day, it will not lead you to any bad situation, because as you take some debt, you are able to build your economy grow higher, your debt becomes smaller compared to your economy, and then of course you can pay back and you can take some more and do other things. But if you look at our budget over the years, we have been very high on recurrent expenditure. And these are things that don't actually add much to the economy. They are not long-term economic investments. We borrow so much to pay salaries, to pay for the excesses of our several convoys, to pay for the excesses of our several foreign trips and all of that. So at the end of the day, this takes so much of our resources without adding significantly to the economy. Okay, so my worry mostly is the debt that we have incurred. What have we applied it to? And how well are we harnessing such investment to be able to repay the debt, and then harness it to improve our economic life as a country? That's my biggest challenge, and that is where I feel that every Nigerian should focus. We should focus more on how these debts are applied. I followed closely, to some extent, the Chinese arrangement for the building of railway and all of that. And the arrangement there was quite okay, you know, given the current reality of the Nigerian situation, until we have security issues that frustrated the operation of the Abuja-Kaduna Railway, and then we have the Lagos-Ibadan Railway that is still taking off gradually. Yes. But you see, the kind of arrangement we had for the Abuja-Kaduna Railway was paying off. At least the investment was beginning to pay something back to
revenues were coming.
Yes, to our creditor. You know, revenue was coming, we were paying back and all of that. If we didn't stop for 6 months, for more than 6 months, which would have cost us some billions of naira in terms of losses of sales not made, we would have been doing well in such area. And then the only challenge we would have today would have been in terms of the exchange rate. Because if we have a loan that is dominated in USD, if the dollar grows in strength, then we suffer more because we have to make more naira to be able to exchange and pay for the dollar.
Okay, Wilson, while I'll bring you back to this discussion on how monies are spent, now, when the finance minister made the announcement that approval has been gotten from Mr. President to securitize the 20 trillion naira Ways and Means. Now, Ways and Means is a loan facility through which the CBN finances the government budget shortfall, and I think it has a 5% cap against the revenue of the previous year. Now, some analysts are saying that that is contributing to the currency situation, the fact, the weak value of the naira that we are seeing. You mentioned that when we started the program that putting it into securities is not a bad idea as going into the stock market and treasury bills and bonds. However, do you think the Ways and Means is also causing a level of disadvantage to strengthening the naira?
I am struggling to actually see how it's going to affect the naira, because the major factors that affect the strength of the naira is our productivity, what we sell out there. What do we have that forces somebody or stimulate or motivate somebody to want to look for the naira? Because the matter of strength of the naira to other currency is a question of demand and supply. We have more nairas chasing the dollar, that is why. So, but when we securitize these Ways and Means, it's just a way of trying to relieve the burden from the CBN so that it can do its operation. And then, of course, if we securitize it, we are raising money from the market. And that is sort of mopping up money from the system. And so this can also be considered as one of the kind of open market activities to reduce inflation. All right? Because when you have inflation, you try to mop up money from the system by increasing interest rate, selling more securities and all of that, so that the volume of money reduces, and so that the willingness to pay higher reduces, and then prices can fall and all of that. So that is not going to have a direct impact on the value of naira, but it will rather may help in curbing the inflation rate. And then it depends on the other backup policies that will follow through. That will determine how well we fare after the securitization of these Ways and Means.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Now, whenever the conversation on Nigeria's debt burden comes up, I get to speak to Nigerians and also speak to experts a lot. And there's a whole lot of worry around the rising debt situation of the country, especially bearing in mind that we are in an electioneering season. Elections, general elections are equally upon us. I was looking through in my research and I saw a graphics put together by Daily Trust talking about how much in a Nigerian or an average Nigerian is owing, looking at the GDP per capita, if we have that, let's
Per
put that
capita
up.
debt.
Yes, per capita debt, I beg your pardon. Now, as of June 2015, now the per capita debt was at 69,000 naira. Now, if we come down now to June 2022, per capita debt is put at 203,000 naira. And that's as a result of research done by Daily Trust. Now, I want to get your opinion on what is the way out? Because a lot of times we speak about getting the revenues show up, working on economic diversification, and it's almost looking like we are not seeing dividends yet to help address this. We understand that it's a marathon and not a sprint. But then again, in your opinion, what would be your recommendation?
Well, basically, we talk about debt. The only reason you look for debt, if you're not in the corporate business setting, where even though you have money, if you see cheap debt that can help you make more money while you keep your money to make more money, you always go for debt, all right? But as a social entity, like a country that we are, the reason we go for debt is because we are not having enough revenue.
Sure.
And where does the government derive its revenue? From taxes and some other businesses that it does, royalties. Now, let's look at our own source of revenue. One of our biggest source of foreign exchange and source of revenue is oil. I don't need to take you through the issue of oil theft.
Yes.
And the barrage of depressing news that have been coming out from that sector in recent time. We have not been able to meet our OPEC quota for God knows how long. So we are dwindling in terms of that revenue. Let's come to tax. What percentage of Nigerians are actually paying tax? Apart from VAT. And I am aware that there are several places that you go to buy, they charge you VAT and they don't even remit to the government. And what is enabling this? Corruption. People who are supposed to do things are not doing what they are supposed to do, or they go there, collect for their pockets. And then you see the issue of sincerity of purpose on the part of the government. Other countries, you see, they have platforms that allows small businesses to start, grow, and become big. This is how you gradually widen your tax net. So that instead of charging very few people very high tax, you are charging many people little and bearable taxes. And then you have more money to put into things. And then our problem as a country is not that we are poor. We are a rich country in terms of natural resources, all forms of resources, human resources, natural resources, whatever you want, name it. God has blessed this land. So the land, Nigeria, is not the problem. The people living on the land, Nigeria, they are the problem.
Many would not want to agree with you, even as we tilt towards the end of the program. Many will not want to agree with you that the people are the problem, because talking about the tax, bringing more Nigerians into the tax bracket as opposed to increasing the tax rate. A lot of Nigerians, to be fair, have acted as local governments to themselves. Even businesses, you get to see some of these SMEs, they are the ones that get sand to fill in access roads. They use generators to run their businesses. So how then do you marry this situation in terms of getting these businesses? We have over 40 million MSMEs in Nigeria, and these MSMEs have been tagged the engine room of the economy. How then is that addressed?
Well, like I was saying, that the land, Nigeria, has provided all of that we need as a people. We as the people are the problem of the land, and this is what I mean by that.
Yes.
We have refused to harness these resources and use it to our common benefits. Greed.
In 40 seconds, please, Mr. Agaba.
Right. So greed has taken over everything,
Yes.
and people who are appointed and elected
Yes.
into offices to do what they need to do
Yes.
to grow the country and its economy have refused to do what they should do, and they have rather turned to greed, turned to self-aggrandizement, turned to corruption and all of that. And that is the reason why we don't have electricity. When we privatized electricity, I was advocating for commercialization instead of privatization. If you commercialize, it means they can go to the stock market and then raise funds to build more infrastructure, distribution infrastructure and all of that. But we privatize instead. And then what have we gotten? Distribution have been very poor.
Thank you.
You know,
Thank you. So the
we can't get
conversation is
started on this
ongoing.
issue.
Yes, the conversation is ongoing because as developments come up, we'll continue to talk about them. Thank you, Agaba Wilson Agaba, for coming on the program today.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, thank you for investing your time also with us on the program. We hope that the necessary actions will be taken to address this situation, especially as it relates to Nigeria's burgeoning debt stock. And of course, show up revenue at the front burner of the conversation. You can catch up on all the updates, making the rounds in the polity on our social media platforms. I am Christiana Amodu Otinya. Thank you for your time and enjoy the rest of your day.